Welcome back to Community Conversations. And I have a guest today, Georgann Morriseau, the Chief of the First William First Nation. So Georgann, we're talking about involving both the elders and the youth, and I want to focus a little bit around involving the youth. How the heck do you do that? I mean, I know my own grandkids, you know, the oldest are 15, 17. They don't need to see me anymore, you know, and I want to, but how do you do it? How do you involve them? How do you engage them?
You have to be creative. And if I go back to my roots and kind of where I started along my journey, that's exactly where I started. Was a youth that was very curious and wanted to know more about her community and wanted to be able to help. And what I found was when I came back to my community after quite a few years of not being at home, I noticed that there was really no outlets. It was like I was screaming in a room and nobody was hearing me. And again, it's not intentional, I don't think. I think it's just we get caught up with all these big initiatives, big visions, big community planning, plus you're going through, you know, the political piece, and sometimes we don't just stop to focus on our young people. Now, you know, within our administration, it's not perfect. You know, I still sit here some days and try to think, how am I going to engage our young people? I know that we have them out there. They've expressed that they want something, they want to do something. So it's a matter of being creative and being able to provide them with outlets, but also investing in your young people. And I think sometimes what we tend to do is when we get caught up in our day-to-day lives and community challenges, we tend to kind of put it to the side because we also look at, you know, what resources we have available. And when you start talking about investing in your young people, I think sometimes we may feel that we're investing, but where's the return? And what I like to try and remind people is you invest now, you have a greater return in the future. Because if you invest in your kids at a young age and you give them the opportunity to foster growth and development and move beyond their own expectations and realize their potential, then they're going to come back to your community and they're going to give back. So I look at that as being probably one of the most valuable resources within the community. It's just a matter of what do we do now to keep them active, keep them doing something. So what we've been working on, and it's just preliminary discussions, is some kind of a youth facility. What that facility is or looks like, I have not a clue, and it's not up to me. It's going to be up to our young people. What do you want to do? Mm-hmm. What do you, and provide them with somewhat of an option or options, you know, for them to kind of grab onto and say, that's what I want. You know, there's been ideas about a youth encampment, you know, land-based activities and cultural heritage and, you know, exercising some of that. Or we've talked about a sports complex. You know, and again, this gets your kids active, but it also promotes youth employment as well. Mm-hmm. Right? And it teaches them from a younger age about work ethic and being able to be, you know, take pride in what you do and what's within your community and what's within yourself. So those are some of the things that we're talking about and working on, and I really, really want to see that through.
And what about the unorganized linking, I guess? Mm-hmm. And once again, you know, I'm thinking about my own grandkids, and mm-hmm. and for me, one of my greatest pleasures was teaching my first granddaughter how to bake cookies mm-hmm. and pies, mm-hmm. and now she's an expert, you know. And I just have great pleasure in that, and she's got a skill mm-hmm. and a little bit of, you know, it's not a big deal, mm-hmm. but those little things, you know, that just happen informally sometimes are important, you know, that set the stage really for other kind of intergenerational activities. Or I mean, I don't know how that fits in the big picture of community development.
Well, you know what? I think it actually fits in perfectly. And the reason I say that is because when there are a lot of community mentors. There are younger people in our community that mentor others that don't even know they're doing that. Mm-hmm. You know, and it's those ones that you want to continuously pump and promote and say, yes, keep doing what you're doing, because you have a following of children that want to give you, and it's being able to inject certain resources or time and effort, even whether mm-hmm. it's volunteering into those ideas and what it is that they're doing, because something's working, something's connecting. You know, and even as much as far as parenting. You know, how do we support our parents mm-hmm. to be the best parents that they can be? Mm-hmm. Because it starts at home. That's where it starts. It starts with the parenting, it starts with the home life and how that child is growing up. So how do we support those parents to be able to provide for their children and give them those outlets and opportunities to, again, to grow and be successful, both in the short term and in the long term, and whether it's academics or whether it's just community-based learning. You know, those are some of the fundamental pieces that do help our children and do follow with them throughout the course of their lives. And again, just recently in the early spring, we had a group of young people who went and tapped our maple trees. And they were making maple syrup.
Nice.
You know, and this goes back. This is, you know, age-old tradition that even my grandmother and my great-grandfather, they used to tap the maple trees, you know, every year. And they did that this year. And that was a group of young people who accomplished that. And they were so proud. So what you're talking about, very informal, very simplistic, but the learning and the experience and the togetherness that came out of that, and how they want to do it more and they want to actually do something with it. To me, that's where you take that and you focus in on it and you figure out how you can keep that going. So again, it very informal, but it was probably the most beneficial thing that I've seen happen in a very long time with respect to our young people taking action. Because sometimes it's not a matter of what others can provide for you, it's a matter of what you can do on your own. Just do it. You know?
So thinking about the more formal mentoring or development, have you thought about in terms of the institution whether you know, young people have a seat on council as a youth seat or something like that, or some way that within the organizational structure that youth have a role to play and a voice?
Well, with respect to youth council, as a matter of fact, speaking of, you know, emerging leadership, so to speak, is there's been attempts at having youth councils, and there were standing youth councils for a time being. It was just, you know, again, the engagement piece becomes a bit more of the challenge, right? Because as you become as you're a youth, you do have a little bit more time, but then as you start to get into your later youth, into your younger adulthood, you know, time is eaten up when you're in school, you're working, or you just, you know what, you're experiencing life. So it's a matter of having something a little bit more permanent. And I think that's where the First Nation administration or programs and services or the chief and council can really inject that time and resource into ensuring that it is something longer term. So a youth plan of some sort. And again, this is again the more formal piece, but it can be done. And in terms of having a youth sit on the council, I think it would be a very good opportunity for them and a very good experience for them to be able to participate in a formal role like that on behalf of their community. And you know, that's when you get more into the governance and the lawmaking of your community, and that you want to entrench something permanent within the leadership structure of the community to ensure that you have a youth and maybe even an elder sit on your council. You know, so it takes some work, and again, that's more of a longer term plan, but it could be shortened if you have people working on it, spending the time and effort to see that through.
Well, we're out of time. I really enjoyed our conversation, and I would like to invite you back again to explore these issues further. I'd like to remind people that we have a Facebook page, Community Conversations, and we look for your input. Check us out and add your 2 cents. Our next show will be featuring the Community Action Group in the Picton, Bluchard, Windsor area. Thank you very much, and stay safe.
Let us care for each other. That's what we all gotta say.